Was a girl running in our group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford Coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look out, buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
You know, Chuck, today, now I've had AT&T as my cell phone provider for 48 years.
Okay.
47 years.
Right.
I had it when I had a bag phone. It looked like I was getting ready to call in coordinates for bombing.
I didn't know the cellular phone was that old, but okay.
Oh, yeah.
The bag phone? Okay.
This was a bag, and I did everything but crank it up.
I've seen that at the museum, yeah.
Well, they were supposed to go off-grid today.
Right.
Well, I used mine, but it was later in the afternoon when I used mine. What is the repercussion on our electric cars that require telephone communications? Of course, over the air, but they're using telephone AT&T to get back to the factory and whoever they're talking to about their particular vehicle.
Right. So there's an article in cars.com that talks about this, because I was thinking about this earlier, the idea that as our cars get smarter, the more we rely on technology. So and in this case, in the case of Tesla and things like that, is that there's a lot of things that this car needs to do. It needs to have internet access. It needs to phone home sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of things that a Tesla needs a cellular connection to do.
We definitely need technology right now.
Well, but again, the idea is if you have an older car, you don't care if the internet's down, cellular's down, the electric grid's down. You can get in your car and go if you need to.
If I'm cruising,
everything can be down. You get an old car.
I'm cruising with my buddy on his '65 Buick LeSabre,
right?
And we just turn the radio on and put the top down and grab a beer and go to town, man. We have fun.
So, but in the case of like a Tesla, they talk about all these features that they have, and one of the things that even comes up is the idea of, it uses. So imagine your Tesla uses the internet to figure out where the superchargers are and if they're available. So now you end up in a situation. Now they're claiming it wasn't an issue, but some Tesla users are saying that they're still able to use the superchargers and unlock their phones using their app, which uses Bluetooth. So basically this, during the cellular outage, the Teslas have no access to the internet. And so it's very, the Teslas, I believe they kind of can look at what superchargers are available and where they're at. And
what are the repercussions if there's an automobile wreck and they can't call it in? The car can't call it in for you.
I guess you have to do it the old-fashioned way and actually make a phone call.
Well, yeah, if you can get out of the car.
Right. Well, if your phone works. But I'm saying...
If you're not on, or get a landline.
Well, and so that's what they're saying is that the basic features of the Tesla, unlocking it with your phone app, all these things are still working, but it severely limits what you can do with your Tesla.
Oh, could you see a lawsuit where the guy gets in a car wreck and he's pinned in the car and nobody can get it, and nobody knows about it? He's on a regular country road on the way home.
Right.
And Tesla can't report his wreck. And here it comes. The guy dies.
And certain phones, like I know the new iPhone and things like that, actually know when they've been in an accident, have the ability to basically call out if it thinks it's an accident and things like that. So, again, we get I saw a lot of people on the internet today saying, we always do fire drills and things like that. Maybe we need to start doing drills to what happens if your phone doesn't work.
What happens if your phone quits? Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's sort of the thing is, again, we become very reliant on technology until the morning you wake up and it doesn't work.
My youngest worker was shaken today. He was so upset. Yeah. He was shaking.
Well, and again, we don't know a whole lot about, there's all kinds of theories and speculations. People are saying it's solar flares and Russians and Chinese hackers, and could be any number of things that caused it. As an engineer, I'd say probably somebody hit the wrong button early this morning.
AT&T wasn't the only network.
Right. So the idea is if you have a lot of third party, a lot of companies use other companies for, web applications and third party applications and things like that. So it could have been that all these people that are down are But even I heard earlier that Starlink was down, and people have become very reliant on Starlink. The military uses it and things like that. So again, this idea that you become so reliant on technology that you can't do anything if it doesn't work.
Well, you're not set up to do anything because the car is supposed to do it for you.
Or people that are saying, well, my business is closed today because I do everything on my phone. So if you can't call me, I can't work. It's like you can email me, but I can't.
Yeah, what if you're running your business from your phone? Give me a break.
Right.
That's just not going to work.
But again, that goes back to the whole idea of all of this stuff is neat until the day, and people, you really don't even think about stuff like that with the Tesla, and they come up with all these features and all this stuff, remote diagnostics. Everything sounds great because nobody thinks that one day, the cell network isn't going to work.
Like Mama Vincent used to say, it's all fun and games until somebody gets an eye poked out.
Right.
And that's, we never had anybody get an eye poked out.
Well, yeah, the day is young, but
yeah.
But so, yeah, again, so that's just kind of the idea. And that becomes a question about just what are the long term, like you said, if it's one day, that's something. If it's down for a week, again,
how can it be down for a week with the technology we have today?
Yeah, I mean,
unless there are some hackers that are involved, and they're a little bit more technology than we are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if they were going back to this idea of solar flares, if you have a solar flare that knocks out technology, that could be bad for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's just we're so reliant on extracurricular things, and this is extracurricular. I mean, I come from a generation that the phone didn't mean that much to. I just don't. I carry one, but it's not in my pocket. It's in my bag, and I throw it on the counter, and I pick it out when I got to make a phone call to somebody that I know I have the phone number in my phone. But other than that, I don't answer. I don't call on it. It's a cell phone. It's for emergencies. At least that's the way I see it. But boy, oh boy, everybody uses it. I saw it this morning, Chuck. I had 4 people in my waiting room, all waiting for their car to get done, and all 4 of them were like this on the phone.
Right.
All 4 of them.
And the phone wasn't even working. They just kept staring at it, right?
There wasn't. No, they were like playing a game, or texting, or.
Yeah.
I understood that you can text on AT&T today.
And if you're on Wi-Fi, I think things are still working.
Yes, and I have Wi-Fi at the shop.
There you go.
But still, 4 grown adults staring at a phone. I mean, that's just. You can't have a conversation with them. You can't talk about how's the car doing. You can't ask. I actually have to yell to get people to get off the phone for a minute so I can find out exactly like which tire is going flat or which because and the phone is my enemy. I'll tell you right now. But hey, everybody's got to have one because if you don't, your car's got to have one. That's how this whole conversation started. Is your car's got to have a phone, believe it or not. Yeah. Well, you can may as well just believe it because it's true. All right. Back to the salt mines here. The new electric vehicle registrations for electric vehicles rose 23% in December and captured a near record 8.8% of the U.S. light vehicle market. Last year, I think, was 7%.
It was about 7% on average, right?
But there were clear signs of a slowdown by segment leaders Tesla, Ford, and Chevrolet, according to data from S&P Global Mobility. And I don't know how they put Ford and Chevrolet in the same category as a leader with Tesla. You got Tesla, and then you got the other guys. Tesla's 11% rise in full electric vehicle registrations lagged the segment and the broader light vehicle market, which rose 15% in December, compared with the same month last year. Ford's electric vehicle registrations grew 13%. Wow. And Chevrolet's fell 26%. Well, that's because it quit selling the Bolt, the thing that was catching people on fire and stuff. The December data shows that the electric vehicle market remains strong despite a slowing trend from its red-hot numbers for the full year of 2023. And they had some numbers on 23, but it didn't make it. And I got to tell you, it is slowing down, Chuck.
Well, I think, do you want to talk about Rivian and Lucid real quick?
You may as well, because that's talking about slowing down. That's at a stop.
So both companies reported their fourth quarter earnings this week, and not good for either one of them. Rivian reported a loss of $1.36 per share. Let's see. So what's interesting though is
you're in trouble when Fisker's moving more units than you are.
Well, and so what's interesting though is they also said their production is going to remain flat. So basically, you're losing money. And the idea was, like when you start up, you're going to ramp up production. So obviously, you're making more money per vehicle and things like that. But in this case, if they're saying we're losing money and production is flat, that's not a good long-term outlook.
Oh, no. I have Amazon at my shop at least once a day.
Yeah.
They're always bringing us parts or test equipment or something for me and Sandy and I, or just something for Sandy usually. And I got to tell you, I ask each one of them, because they're all driving these electric Rivians now. Mm-hmm. And I said, the one you're driving, is that electric? He goes, yeah. Every one of them says the same thing, yeah. And I say, what's the matter with it? Oh, it's garbage. I had two friends that quit over these trucks. Oh, they quit Amazon over these trucks. They're garbage. Two of them got stuck twice out on the road with a dead battery.
Wow.
So, and I said, well, was that their fault or was it the battery's fault? Well, it was cold out. It was winter, and it was the battery's fault. So they got stuck, and they can't, for the life of me, I don't know. They better figure out if they're going to use these vehicles year round. If they're not going to just be a toy for the summer to ride around like your old hot rod with the drop top. Well, if you're going to drive your Tesla only in the summer, you'll be fine. But if you're going to drive it in the winter, you're going to have to figure out something. Tesla's going to have to figure out something, because nobody's going to buy. After that last winter report, I don't see anybody buying an electric vehicle.
And speaking of Elon weighed in on the Rivian. He says based on their trajectory, they could go bankrupt in about 6 quarters, so about a year and a half. Meanwhile, the CFO of Rivian said, everything's fine. We're confident that our cash and maintain operations. And but again, that goes back to the idea of, timing the market and things like that. You have to start a product where you can ramp up production and there's a demand. And if there's no demand, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. You can't sell something that you can't sell, that nobody wants. And the Rivian originally had Amazon and I think it was Ford in their pocket.
Right.
Might have been GM, but they had big money backing them. And now, well, now they're looking at flat sales. We've talked about the electric vehicles slowing down and all the different things. There are a couple things going on that you're not aware of, and it might bring the prices of these vehicles down, which may pump up the jam. It may get them to start selling. The automakers, that EV battery companies are struggling for North American graphite. I got a couple stories on the chemicals here, and this is setting up why they're just looking for the cheaper vehicles. Reduced Chinese exports are forcing companies to find domestic sources for graphite for their EV battery anodes. They make graphite in China. At least 3 major deals were struck over the past several days between auto companies and producers of graphite. Graphite, that's the stuff in the pencils, right?
Yeah, and we need a lot of that for electric vehicles, too.
Yeah, I needed a lot in grade school, too. General Motors and erasers to go with it. General Motors said on February 15th it entered into an agreement with a Canadian miner to receive 18,000 metric tons a year of active anode material made mostly out of graphite. Anode is the end of the battery, the terminal. On February the 12th, South Korean electric vehicle maker, SK, or electric battery maker, SK, on SKON, whose customers include Ford, Hyundai, Volkswagen, entered into an agreement with Colorado graphite producer Westwater Resources to produce 34,000 tons of the material, while Panasonic Energy on February 9th entered into an agreement with Australian company to receive at least 10,000 tons of graphite for its North American operations. Panasonic sells batteries to Elon, to Tesla. The agreements come as the industry rushes to secure the raw materials needed to meet the EV batteries in the coming years, and to secure enough regional supply to meet Inflation Reduction Act requirements for electric vehicle incentives. In other words, if you don't have enough local stuff in your car, you don't get the electric vehicle incentives. I didn't realize that graphite was so important to a electric battery. I guess I'm going to have to do a little research on how those are made, all those batteries. Now, after the EV price cuts, which has happened, cheaper batteries could be just what the automakers need. And get this now, lower prices for key materials like lithium are driving down the cost of electric vehicle batteries. Lower prices for lithium, wow. A balm for automakers who have already dropped vehicle prices to try and retrieve the slumping demand. And they can't sell them, I don't care if you got them on the lot. If they're $90,000, you're not going to sell it. You might sell to some of these young kids, but they don't care what something costs because they don't plan on paying for it anyway. But I can't buy this. The price cuts could also be a race to the bottom as automakers scramble to incentivize adoption and make good on expensive EV investments. They put a lot of money into these cars. But sharp price declines for lithium, cobalt, nickel, and other materials are lowering battery costs. That's great. Potentially giving car makers some relief. Oh, I think that's great. The falling prices allow automakers to maintain margins as they cut stickers. Make them cheaper for us to buy because you're paying less for batteries, but you make the vehicle more attractive for the consumer, said Gabe Daoud, an analyst with TD Rowan. The automaker, how come nobody in any of these reports is named Smith or Jones? Geez, the automaker could ultimately charge whatever they want, and they can, but they need to make a margin, a certain profit margin, and they need to stay in business and not go bankrupt at the same time. And they won't if they don't take care of it. General Motors said in its fourth quarter financial results that it is seeing lower cell costs in 2024, driven by significantly lower raw materials prices. Didn't we just 6 months ago talk about the prices going crazy through the roof for lithium and stuff, Chuck?
Right.
In September, Claire McDonough, Rivian's financial chief, said the company would benefit from dropping material prices this year. I don't know why we even asked Rivian. Why did we bother? Are they going to be here this year? Well, everybody, Chuck, everybody's looking for a smaller electric vehicle, smaller and lower price. They want to get this to where people can buy them and can afford them.
Right.
The average person over the age of 30 is not going to spend $90,000 for a car that should be 30. Okay? You're not getting that much of a car. You're just getting electric. And it's because they're forced on you. Now you're going to pay more. I don't believe in that. I don't think it's right.